You know what time it is. It's 9 to 5 with Gavin and Mike. In this episode, we'll be talking about the purpose of relationships. But before we do that, drop the intro. Konnichiwa. My name is Gavin Masamiya.
Nice to see ya.
I'm a mindset coach based out of West LA.
And I'm Mike Ahiri.
Ya hear me?
I'm a transformational life coach from London.
These recordings are short, sharp, sweet snippets of insight for anybody hustling a 9 to 5.
That's right, you can tune into them on your way to work, on your lunch break, or on your way home after a long day's hustle. Now, I'm sure that many people will have varying views on what their purpose of relationships is, but Gavin and I would like to share with you what ours is, or what our view is. So without further ado, Gavin, why don't you share with us what you feel the purpose of relationships is?
Well, I feel like the purpose of relationships is really to magnify our life experience, right? So an example is like when you're with your spouse and you're going to go see the movie, you watching it together, your spouse starts to laugh, like it can prompt you to laugh, right? And it can make you laugh harder when you're watching a comedy with somebody who really enjoys the movie as much as you do versus you just watching it alone. And so it can magnify life experience in both ways of the spectrum, right? Anger, two angry people together trying to be right in a relationship, it magnifies the anger, right?
Right.
And so like relationships are emotional magnifiers. And it's really powerful. Like there's people in my life and people that have met me that just say that my energy is really strong, and they kind of just mean in a way that kind of like repels them, right?
Right.
And then so like my kind of energy is something that it's not something that they'd want to magnify for themselves. So but there are people like my cousin, for instance, my roommate, who like we just magnify each other's enthusiasm for life. Like we're
Okay.
always like just so excited about something that we learn. He shares an interview about Aubrey Marcus, and then I share with him something that I'm reading, or like an idea that we had about meditating with our moms, and now we're coming together to make that a movement, and we were so stoked about it. So I
See, yeah, I find it really, really interesting. Just because that's a perspective that I hadn't really considered in that way before. And so I'm curious to know, like from your perspective, Gavin, why do you think that reason, that purpose exists for us to magnify ourselves? Why do you think that's integral for a relationship?
Well, I believe in, this is very personal take, so people please disagree with me. That's completely fine. One of my favorite words of all time is synergy, you know, and I just know collaborating with you, for instance, Mike, uh, new ideas come about. Like our intro for this whole show was basically something that came together as of us two minds coming together that I never would have done on my own. I never would have done. And so it's like a way of actually coming together to help magnify each other, whether it's illuminating exposing things that we both need to develop, or something that I need to develop because I'm not as systemized as you, right? That you help to bring that kind of like more of that digital structure and systemization that has really helped to propel this forward, and then just like my energy and my zest, I think I bring like a little flair and a little swag into these calls as well. And so we're like, it's a complementary just gelling of, we're helping to just magnify the experience of this 9 to 5 that we created that I never would have thought on my own. So it's important
Nice.
to come together to magnify for
Yeah, see, I love that because that's a nice take. So it's because the way I see the purpose of relationships serves the same purpose as what you're saying, which is effectively growth, right? Magnifying ourselves so that we can grow and the relationship grows, right? Magnifying brings to mind a sense of expansion. So this idea of growth, and the idea that I was looking at the purpose of relationships, the angle I was looking at it from is the idea that relationships, especially intimate ones, are a really efficient way for us to grow, but by exposing our weaknesses, exposing the cracks in our personalities, whether that be with things like jealousy or controlling behavior or maybe anger, right? Being in a relationship will really magnify that and really bring that to the fore. And so we can either ignore that or dismiss it and try and control the other person and say, don't do this behavior because this behavior makes me respond in this way and I don't like it and you made me feel this way, so don't do it again. And then we stunt our growth. Or we can just sit with whatever comes up, take responsibility for our emotions and our behaviors, and decide to change ourselves for the better and for the sake of the relationship. So I like the way that we're looking at it from different angles, but effectively to get the same result,
Yes, I
which is
mean,
magnification and growth, right? So that's quite refreshing.
yeah, I was we're pretty much both like alluding to something very similar. And Tony Robbins, right, world-renowned coach, says that, what's the recipe for happiness? It's growth, right? We want to attract, actually, the purpose of having relationships in our life is so that, for me is like when it comes to who do I connect with on a weekly basis, not on a monthly, not on every 3 months, like on a weekly basis, is people that inspire me or people that help me to grow, whether it's a way like a comfortable or like, oh yeah, like, oh, I love talking to this person. And on the other side, it's just like, it's people that maybe don't make me feel so comfortable, right? And there's something that I know that I can learn to develop because I like a character trait of this person that allows me to want to foster and to develop myself even more. So yeah, it's relationships are very powerful magnifiers.
Yeah, totally powerful magnifiers, and like even relationships with friends, it, people might be assuming that we're talking about sort of like intimate relationships like with partners, but even relationships with friends, right? Especially two people who want to say start a project together, right? Or two friends who want to move in and become roommates, right? Those sort of intimate settings and circumstances can really either magnify a characteristic, magnify a personality trait, or really expose a weakness in the individual. And I think, again, having an element of self-awareness and sitting with that and thinking, is this response serving me? Is this thought pattern serving me? Is this behavior serving me? If so, continue to do more of it. If not, then maybe that's the time to flip back and think, okay, how can I change this for the better? And yeah, I'm really enjoying my journey in the relationships that I have, whether that be with a significant other or with a collaborator like yourself, Gavin, or other coaches I'm working on projects with. I really feel like I'm sort of developing myself in many different areas, and it's an amazing journey. So, but like Gavin said, feel free to disagree. We're coming up to the 7-minute mark, so we're going to round it up. But yeah, feel free to disagree, and we'll have to hear what your views are on what you feel the purpose of relationships are and how you've benefited from being in a relationship and the areas you feel you can grow. But before we close up, Gavin, any final remarks?
Well, yeah, this is a final thought that was inspired by what you had mentioned was you're kind of alluding to triggers, right? When our buttons get pushed, because
Right.
in relationships, especially when it's more intimate romantically, family members, right, that we just known each for so long, it's so easier to have these associations in our mind on like, this is how they react. And we have a trigger, even though we don't try to, it's just we've conditioned our nervous system to react or to bodily react in a certain type of way. And so whenever those happen, just know that like everybody is both a student and a teacher. And a great question that I ask is, what is it about this person or this situation that has me so upset? That has me my buttons be pushed. And what that does is, instead of diffusing the blame, it brings the personal responsibility and therefore our personal power back to us. And sometimes our triggers have nothing to do with the other person. you know and so in that way, like you had mentioned, it's not just like the synergy of these more quote unquote positive emotions. It's like the relationships that really trigger us are some of the greatest teaching opportunities for us.
Totally.
Yeah.
Totally. Yeah, that's great. I
Yeah.
love the fact that you mentioned triggers, because that seems so obvious, right?
Yeah.
I think the only thing that the other person does is literally push the button. But then when they push the button, that activates the circuit. But then what the circuit does is how the circuit's configured, and that configuration is within ourselves, right? So if we want to get a different response or a different result from the button being pushed, we need to change the internal circuitry, right? So that word triggers is a very good one, and that analogy of pushing buttons is a very good one, because it reminds me of like an electrical circuit. And if you want different results, change the circuitry. But there we are. That's all we've got time for today. So thank you all very much for tuning in. If you dig 9 to 5 with Gavin and Mike, be sure to like,
comment,
subscribe.
And wherever you are in the world right now, good morning,
Good evening.